Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Borg Scout ship. Daystrom does not have anything listed for the Borg Scout ship. We do have a little bit of a write up here from uh, D6 Holocron. Um, the Borg Scout ship was a small Borg ship used for scouting for new races to add to their collective. The ship was a cubical shape, much like the Borg cube, although much smaller and only carried a small crew of Borg drones. So this comes from the next generation iBorg. Okay, now to fill in the gap here, I do have a write up coming from the Decipher book. The mission profile for this would be for the vast capabilities of the Borg cube. One hindrance it suffers is from its massive size. Cubes are easily recognized and detected. Before the Borg spread to a new region of space, they send their smaller scout ships to determine whether life forms worthy of assimilation are present. Generally, the Borg are unconcerned with exploration in the traditional sense. They are not interested in studying nebula and surveying gaseous anomalies. The Borg Scout serves only one purpose: locate inhabited worlds and evaluating the population for potential assimilation. On the surface, Borg Scouts do not appear to be a threat. Rest assured, though, uh, that they were a scout ship that where a ship surveys, a cube cannot be far away, waiting for a detailed report. All right, so because the scouts had no warp capability, it is a short range craft, often constructed from parts cannibalized from existing cubes. When warranted, cubes were capable of dispatching up to four scout ships without degrading its capabilities. Cubes never dispatch more than this number. Intruders on board a cube cannot simply hijack its scouts because they must be constructed from the cube's own superstructure and systems. Even if intruders locate or could locate a scout, they would be unable to pilot it because the Borg's unique interface system. There were very few outstanding figures for or to a Borg scout. They are too small to carry a transwarp coil, and so cannot take advantage of the Borg's transwarp conduit network. Although it carries the same beam weaponry as the cube, it possesses fewer emplacements and not as much energy to draw upon. Scout ships utilize cutting beams almost exclusively, primarily as an aid to exploration, although the shielding is considerable for a craft of its size. It avoids combat whenever possible. Should a Borg scout find itself in trouble, it is designed to outrun confrontation while the drone crew contacts nearby cubes via their subspace interplexing beacon. Where warranted, the scout's parent cube quickly responds with additional support, dispatching from the Unimatrix Zero in the Delta Quadrant is or as needed. When the scout's mission is completed, it is reabsorbed and the parts return to the construction of the cube as a whole. It usually takes 30 minutes for drones to reintegrate a scout into a cube. If the cube is attacked during the process, it proceeds through combat normally, though with a -1 maneuverability during battle. The background for this: the only confirmed sighting of the Borg Scout occurs in 2368 in the Argosy cluster. A crew of the USS Enterprise D was charting the region, which contains six systems, when it picked up a signal from an inhabitable moon. The signal matched nothing in Starfleet's database, and the crew concluded that it might be a distress call. Upon sending an away team down to the moon's surface, To investigate, they discovered the remains of a crashed Borg scout and one survivor. All right, so that's all we have listed here from the Decipher book. So looking at this, we do have a scout type vessel at capital scale as a 200 meter by 200 meter by 200 meter uh, profile. It's a size 7 class starship. Has an autopilot of 4D plus 1. A crew of 200 with a skeleton crew of 1 can operate the vessel. Of course, because they're all Borg inhabitants, there are no passengers really for accommodations for them. Cargo capacity would be 66,000 metric tons. Consumables are on board for about 3 years. Has a warp drive of 568.7, a transwarp of 0.045, see notes. So this one must be a transwarp enabled somehow. Um, of course, it's going to have a nav computer. It has a maneuverability of 3D plus 1, a space speed of 9.5, a hull strength of 5D plus 1, and shields of 4D. Pretty respectable for a ship of its size. All right, sensors. It can passively scan out to 6.5 kilometers with a 2D plus 2 bonus, an active scan out to 13.5 kilometers at a 3D plus 2 bonus, an active search out to 18 kilometers with a 4D plus 1 bonus, and a focus of out to 600 meters at a 5D plus 1 bonus. All right, we do have 6 Borg energy beams on board the ship with a fire control of 3D plus 1, a rate of fire of 2, and a damage of 5D. We do have 6 Borg cutting beams, 1 per side. Same thing with the energy beams. Fire control is 3D plus 1 and a rate of fire of 1D. And of course, this is a special damage because it just kind of cuts a hole in however you want to work that out. 6 Borg feedback pulse generators, 1 per cube side. Special damage, shield drainers, there's 6 of those with a fire control of 3D plus 1. Again, special damage. We have 6 Borg torpedo launchers. Has a fire control of 3D plus 1. There are 2,000 Borg torpedoes on board. Can do a spread of 12. And it does 10D damage. We do have 6 class Delta tractor beams, or the equivalent thereof, 1 per side. Let's see, we have 2D plus 2 for our fire control. Strength is 4D plus 2. Let's see. Crew quarters, we have regeneration Elcos for 200. There are no escape pods. Specialized hull, Borg ship regeneration. Maximum life support is 10,000. So in other words, I think it can support about 10,000 Borg beings on board. Uh, we have 5 personnel transporters for 6-person capability per transporter, 5 emergency transporters to beam 40 persons per transport, 2 cargo transporters for 800 kilograms each. We do have 100 probes. Let's see. Now, this one's stating that the vessel may travel at transwarp speeds of 97.65 hours, 5,000 light years before the transwarp coil needs to be replaced. Description: the Borg class scout ship is a small Borg starship used for scouting new races to add to the collective. The ship was a cubical shape, much like the cube, though much smaller. And as far as all the special damages, you'll just have to play that by ear. Um, Essentially, I would say for like the shield drainers, if you're actively putting it on, I would roll a d6 on that, um, and say that that's how many rounds it would actually drain down 1d worth of shielding. And the reason why I'm going to leave it a little bit of a variable is say like it's a good day, bad day kind of scenario. Um, Maybe it's trying to find the actual proper sequence or modulation for the shields to drain them properly, uh, something like that. The pulse feedback generators being something of the same, but I don't remember as much about them to really do that justice. Because I mean I'm bouncing back and forth, and I mean because we're doing different, I mean 4 different game types. Uh, to say I truly under or remember everything for the force feedback pulse generators. I do remember them somewhat, and they were causing harm on board ship, but I don't remember exactly how. I want to say that was attacking the personnel on board the ship, but there again, my memory might be wrong here, so please take this with a grain of salt. Uh, the Borg cutting beams. Um, we saw that early on in Star Trek where it cut a circular section and just pulled that off. And I think it carried away like 3, 4 personnel through like 5 decks that it had cut away. Um, how you want to label that for damage, I don't know. That is really difficult to really kind of come up with. It's great in the writing aspect to say how it's doing that, but to actively say how much damage that does, I don't know how to properly do that justice. So I really want to throw that out there. And then, of course, we have our energy beams, which is the easiest way to just kind of say that. Maybe even giving it another beam type damage at maybe like a 10D or something. Because if you're cutting away things, maybe it hits a significant part of the ship and kind of explodes things internally that then does extra damage. It's really hard to say. So I'm just throwing ideas out here, not really having all the full answers as to properly how to do that. If I was doing it today, I would probably do it as a 10D and see how things felt. Again, for me, when I think of the Borg, because the Borg are kind of overpowered in a lot of regards, I would say that this would be like a post Voyager where maybe the overall collective is no longer there and they're more like zombies in a lot of regards. And they're a little bit slower. They don't learn as fast because, say, the Unimatrix is no longer active to properly give them all the commands to be able to understand things. Um, Maybe even it's a virus on board a significant number of ships where they can learn on their own, but they don't learn cross from one ship to another. Makes it a little bit easier because when we really see the Borg, I mean, you can only use a weapon maybe once or twice on a Borg before it starts getting a shield or something to deflect that to keep it from getting damaged. So you have to get more creative and more ways than you can think of. And that really becomes a very sticking point, which really makes the Borg something very dangerous to throw out in a galaxy. How do you really keep coming up with new ways to really defeat them? Um, and that was a struggle with using them in Star Trek to begin with. They always had to come up with another way to try and take care of getting the Borg destroyed, whether it's just putting them to sleep so that way you could get whatever you needed and then just get out of there, or just overwhelm it at that point with firepower to destroy them. Uh, how do you know, they're fun to throw out there, but in a limited sense would really be my way of doing it. But that's my take on it, and everyone's going to have a different take, and that's very you know forthcoming. I mean, everyone should have their own take on it. We don't always have to see things eye to eye. But with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. Thanks for listening to me rant a little bit on this. Um, you can always drop your viewpoints on how you think it should be run. If you want to keep them how they originally did it, which is very, viable. I mean, go for it. It just makes things a little difficult, especially when you have small crews or you're always trying to come up with more creative ways to take out a Borg uh, when you've already exhausted other methods of trying to take them out. So hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.